Um, Hi, Patrick. Nice to see you this today here and this evening there. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
I wonder if you could tell us. I'm recording this for people in the United States. Well, we are concerned to know about these recent demonstrations in France that have to do with Macron. They have to do with the proposal of mandatory vaccinations. They have to do with something called the sanitary pass. And, but I think it'd be good if you could tell us first a little about yourself.
I am 72 next week. It will be my birthday. I'm a former general practitioner. I used to be a doctor, a family doctor for almost 40 years. I'm retired since some years, and I am active in the French left since May 68 and some around this time. And I also, my main political activity is to be a member of the editorial board of the Syllepse publisher, which is some sort of left-wing independent publisher since now for more than 30 years. And obviously I have a point of view on our situation, which is a mix of political activists, political way of thinking, and also because I used to be a doctor for a long time. It's difficult for me to, I don't know how to begin this conversation, because it's difficult to understand the situation of these demonstrations.
Why don't you begin, if you would, by just giving us some idea of the scope of them? How big are they? How many cities are they taking place in? Who's showing up for them? What kind of people are out there in these demonstrations? That might be a good starting place.
Yes, these demonstrations are quite large, because you have to remember that it's the end of July, so everybody is trying to go for vacation, holidays, traveling, and so it's rather important to see this amount of people gathering to protest. And there are different kind of people. There are hungry people, very, very angry, worried, angry, and also tired by. We spent the last 18 months with this virus in the country, and the way the government and the state handle with this crisis since the beginning wasn't. I never saw something like that, and I didn't think I would be able to see such a mess in France, which is a rather rich and developed capitalist country. But for instance, when the pandemic started, our Ministry of Health Affairs, she said, well, if this virus will remain in China, it will not, for us, it will be maybe a small flu and so on. This was a signal of the way this government, this state, these new people who arrived with Macron in business, because they are not the ordinary right and statesmen we were used to have since a very long time. There were some amateurs, adventurers, ultra-liberal and pro-business, and with no thinking on what is a crisis for a country and how to handle with a sanitary crisis. So this was just a statement, but afterwards they decided that to use the masks, it was not useful. It was not useful. Worse, people were not able to use because it's very difficult to put a mask on your face. So we decided, don't use mask. But the real reason everybody knows, because we didn't have masks, because they destroyed the strategic masks reserve we used to have for years, because it cost a lot of money to buy and to stock and to renew them. So they destroyed it. So we didn't have masks for months.
So it wasn't that they were hard to put on. It was simply they didn't have the masks.
Yeah, but and all the decisions they took, not all, but this medical decision they took, it was only to handle with some sort of, we are not equipped. The country has no masks. We have no, in the hospital, they have no enough, the special clothes you wear in the hospital. We have not enough nurses. We have not enough doctors, and we have not enough these machines to help to breathe when you cannot breathe because of the virus, and so on and so on. And then, and not then, and also that the French pharmacist Sanofi was not able to produce a vaccine in time. So they have decided to stop it, because they didn't have enough money for years to make the research and so on, because the research is mainly state-funded in France. And they began to buy this vaccine to Pfizer, to the other labs, and they bought it without discussion on the prices and the numbers of it comes a moment they didn't have enough vaccine for everyone. For France, I don't speak about the world problems and the poor countries, but even for France, we didn't have for months enough vaccine. So they organized their vaccination strategy with this in mind. We have not enough vaccine to vaccinate everyone. So they began to say it's useful to vaccinate the very, very old people in the places where they stay, in the special, not hospitals, but places for very old people.
Right. Your assisted living homes or something.
Yes, which are all private. Mm-hmm. It's another story, but it belongs to the story. In order to protect these old people from the virus, because if they caught it, they will die very quickly. But it was also with a kind of electoral strategy we are going to protect our elder people, because, and they changed their strategy and then they decided sorry. to, you know, they decided to give the authorization to the family doctors, to the city doctors, and to the pharmacists to make the vaccination. But with this Pfizer vaccine, which needs to be kept in very low temperature fridge, and so no one had it. So they organized a distribution, a completely bureaucratic and it was a failure. And then but doing this, they said, we don't want to organize, they call it vaccinodrome, big places where you can have, and because we are not a country like that. And some weeks later, they decided to open these vaccinodromes because they needed to gather people, but they did it, everything was, so the anger and the distrust of the people against the government was growing and growing and growing because of this policy. And also you have to know that in France since maybe 10 or 15 years, we have big sanitary scandals.
Big scandals in the health system.
Yes, with some medicines which killed people, and with the blood problem, with the AIDS of some years. So the distrust of people is great with this, against this firms who are making the medicine, and the way the government handled the situation, it was like blowing hair on a small fire, and the fire goes great and great. And
there's maybe one other thing you might tell us about this, which is, while people were becoming very dissatisfied with the government over the whole pandemic, there's also the fact that through the entire Macron administration, he had been going after unions and workers and people's work rights, their retirement, and so on. Could you say a word about that?
Yes, the discontent of the people, the anger, it's not discontent, it's a real anger. I hate, I think. Maybe it's the first time in my life I saw such a hate in daily life, not only on the demonstrations, but in daily conversation with people and the streets and so on. Hate for this, for Macron. I never saw it, such a, and because of all the, he had the Gilets jaunes problem now 2 years ago, which was very, he was very threatened by this very strong popular movement, and he was the target. The target was.
Can you say what this Gilets jaunes movement is? How it is different than other French movements of the past?
The Gilets jaunes movement it's a completely spontaneous movement which started in the suburbs, not the poorest suburbs, but the suburbs where the lower middle class and upper working class live, the unemployed, in small places, small towns, and they gathered at some road points and wearing their yellow vest, first to protest against the taxes on the rise of taxes on the price of gas, and then claimings were getting more and more widened on salary, on living condition. But the target was Macron. It was not the boss. It was not their boss or the state it was Macron, who is these people saw him as he is, a banker coming from the high class and looking to them with some sort of so it was a very and also very massive, violent, with people who were not organized, not unionized, because it's difficult to say most, but many of them, they were or unemployed or retired or working in small enterprises without unions. In France, the union. Sorry?
I say self-employed people too.
Yes, but mainly not self-employed, mainly small places where you have 5 or 10.
I see.
So without union.
So in these recent, pardon
sorry.
me. No, you go ahead.
No.
In these recent demonstrations, which you have described as very large, and I know they were very widespread in many, many places in France, who is showing up? Who are the people participating in these demonstrations?
You mean the actual demonstration against
the ones taking place in the last?
I think it's ordinary people, but they look younger than the Gilets jaunes movement, and it's some kind of mixed people coming from different backgrounds, and not openly against the vaccine, but against the sanitary pass. They are decided to organize.
Can you tell us what this health pass is?
This health pass is, France has discovered this kind of smartphone with the QR code, and so we are going to need this when you go to the restaurant, when you go to take the train, when you go to school, to prove that you have been vaccinated or you are not ill. So it's some kind of some kind of social control, and the government also say, well, if people don't accept to be vaccinated, they will be forbidden to go to work, and then they will be fired.
This is starting on September 15th, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
And
people became angry, but they are not all fascists and so on, but the main demonstration last Sunday was organized by the fascists and all kind of people saying that the vaccine is going to kill you, and they're going to change your ADN, and we must be free to do what we want. And the main slogan was freedom.
Yeah.
And we know that freedom is a nice thing to fight for, but where do your freedom stops when my life is going on purpose? And the left, the unions, main unions, the small unions, the left, I will not say reformist left, because if they were reformist, it would be something good. The parliamentary left and the leftists, they are not able to have a political behavior for vaccine, for healthcare at the as a social problem. So they float like that. For instance, last Saturday, I received an invitation to go to the demonstration. And the guy who sent me this, I know him. It's a member of I think a teachers union. And the slogan was united against Macron, between the vaccinated people and the non-vaccinated people. And they decided they go and they mixed with, in this demonstration, there were many, but the situation is not the same in Paris and some other countries. But the left has no, the left and the union, they are not able to say, we are against Macron, we want to fight for the social demands, but we want also to fight for health politics, which people could be vaccinated, and even if the state is not able to organize the vaccination, we could be candidate to organize this. The union could have asked to organize the vaccination in the places where the people works and etc. It would have been mainly propaganda, but it would have given a project, and they were
That's exactly what I was thinking. You know, I was exactly thinking that. It seems to me that people on the left and in the labor movement should say, we want to put ourselves at the head of this movement. We want to help organize. We want to volunteer. We want this to be carried out by our friends and coworkers and fellow union people, and that would be a way to do this. But on the other hand, when I see this, when I've seen some of the left discussions, it seems very confused to me. And often it seems to me the anti-Macron, which is important, absolutely, but it seems like it gets in the way of saying, we want everyone vaccinated. If you're going to the demonstration, wear masks. If you're not vaccinated, meet at the demonstration and get vaccinated there. We will have volunteers to vaccinate you, you know. I don't understand how come that can't happen in a country like France with a much stronger labor and left traditions than we have here.
Maybe it's, I'm sorry to say this, but maybe it's a melting of our illusion on the French left and the French labor movement for a while. Because, for instance, I'm going to go in this sense. During the first step of this crisis last winter, people who work in the hospitals, nurses, doctors, and other people working in the hospital, they organized themselves without the hospital administration in many places. They organized the distribution of work. Like in the past, we would have said workers' control or self-management, but no matter the word we use, but they did it. They did it not because they have of political or ideological thinking. They did it because it was the only way to work, to save people, to organize the hospital and so on. They produced a huge document. They built up a coordination between different hospitals, and they published a huge very huge, many pages of how the hospitals must be funded and organized for people and for workers and so on. In some sort of alliance between nurses, doctors, it's with contradiction, obviously. But this document, no one on the left, no one on the union use it. It's you, and no one is using this experiment of workers' control in the hospital to say, well, this is the way the health system must be organized and ruled, and this is the way the vaccination campaign should be organized. No one.
Well, I'm glad to hear they had that experiment and that they wrote it up. I'm sorry to hear that it could not be taken up by the left. There's supposed to be another one of these demonstrations soon, is it this weekend?
Tomorrow, Sunday.
Sunday, in a couple of days. So I wonder, in this demonstration, is it possible that the far right, this guy Philippot, for example, or others on the far right can show up and can put themselves at the head of this? Or is it possible that the left and the unions can put themselves at the head of this? And if so, if the left does it, they will need some, as you're suggesting, they will need some slogan about the health situation, as well as opposing Macron. What do you see happening this Sunday?
I really don't know. I think the Philippot is a very smart guy. And
can you say who he is for people here who don't know him?
Philippot was the #2 of the National Front, and he was expelled, or he left maybe 2 years ago because all the #2 of the fascist party in France, they go away once.
This is the party of Le Pen.
Mm. So he built up a small group which is called the Patriots, and which has no, at this moment, he has no electoral influence. It's a very small group, and but he was enough intelligent, and because he's a real fascist, I think, and to use this moment to call this demonstration on Trocadero last Sunday. He was at the head. Maybe he didn't organize it, maybe, but people gathered there, and he was on the stage. And some people who have been interrogated by newspaper people in this demonstration, and especially Mediapart, which is a left-wing newspaper, asking to some people, well, I understand you are here against this health pass. What do you think of vaccination? And people were, and the last question was, but don't you think it's about, what do you think about Philippot? And the people answered, I don't care. I don't care, because he is the only one who had the balls, sorry for it was the way it was written in the newspaper, has the balls to organize a demonstration against Macron, against the mandatory vaccination, against the mask, against, and so on and so on and so on. And I think this is the situation, and the left should, but the left should make a counter-offensive on this. But in my knowledge, for this Sunday, sometimes in some places, in some cities, you have some flags of the CGT or other unions, but it's mainly individuals, and they have not a politic to make a clarification with the fascists, and because to do so, you have to say that you're against the fascists, but in what kind of politics against Macron you need. And the unions, they dodge, they are crossing their finger. Maybe it would, if this pandemic should stop, we could go back to our usual business, to fight, to defend the retirement, which I don't say that it is not necessary to do so, but you have to do so in a completely new situation.
And facing a new variant, facing the Delta variant.
Yeah.
So that it's becoming, I mean, today I was supposed to meet someone here in the United States, and the person I was going to meet said to me, well, it looks like there's going to be thunderstorms at the time we're supposed to meet this evening, so we ought not to do this because we should not meet inside. This a young person, politically conscious, health conscious person said we can't meet inside. Mm-hmm. And I think that one of my children was going to fly to Cincinnati, and he said from New York to Cincinnati, it's a 12-hour drive. He said, well, we're going to drive instead because we don't want to get on the airplane. So there's a new, and people who are paying attention are becoming, once again, we have to wear the masks. I went to the store today because I may fly to see my son. So this is the mask, N95, that you have to have an N95 mask. I have a question though about the pass. One other question. I'm going to show you something. This is on my telephone. Mm-hmm. It says, this is my sanitary pass for the state of New York. Now, I had to show it the other night to go to a theater where this is this was an outdoor theater. It's called Shakespeare in the Park. It's a very famous theater here in Central Park in Manhattan. And I had to show that. I don't find this onerous. I don't find this to be a terrible form of social control. So I wonder, and I understand, here, when people here say, we want freedom, those are the rightists who say that. When Biden said we're going to have federal health workers assist the states by going door to door to knock on doors, to talk to people, the far right said, oh, Biden is doing that so that today they're going to knock on your door and give you this dangerous virus, and tomorrow they're going to come and take your Bibles and your guns. So, so when I hear this in France about the opposition to having we have lots of passes we have to carry, driver's licenses, passports. I don't understand why the left and the unions see this as such a dangerous form of social control.
Because we live in a country where people distrust the state, but they want also the state to protect them. But they distrust the state, they distrust the police, but they want the police to protect them and also to protect them against the others, and the others in the suburbs, and the black ones, and so. So this is a contradictory situation, and also because the state is trying to control people also. And
I'm sure that's the case here too.
and
A lot of surveillance, you know.
And this comes, like that, for instance, the mandatory vaccination. It should, in my opinion, but I don't say it too loudly, because even my own friends they said, yeah, you say this because you have a doctor's way of thinking, but it's not a left way of thinking. I am thinking about the mandatory vaccination, but mandatory vaccination doesn't mean that the police will take people to on the vaccination center. It needs democratic kind of organization, going to the people, explanation. It took time, and this government failed on everything. So everything is some kind of running after the event, changing their mind, and in a bureaucratic way. It's capitalist bureaucracy, and also in a authoritarian way of handling everything. And the unions, so they are afraid, because, for instance, 2 weeks ago, about almost 2 weeks ago, everyone, not me, but many of the people thought that the pandemic was behind us, because the rate of vaccination in France grows slowly, but it grows, and so on and so on. So what did Macron said? Well, I am going to put on the table again the reform of the retirement system.
Is that to increase the retirement age?
Yes, and to lower the
benefits?
The benefits. And unfortunately for him and for us, the new variant came, and the epidemic burst again. So the unions were decided to fight against this new, and they were asking, no, we must not discuss on this retirement system before the presidential election. It means after we shall see. So people, and then they put the health pass on the table. So it's some sort of.
Let me ask just maybe one or two more questions. We have a few small groups on the far left that have some, I know they're small. I know their influence is limited, but I think of like the new anti-capitalist party, the NPA, and also old historic left groups like Lutte Ouvrière. And these groups have both some influence, some working class following. And then also I wondered about the union SUD, called Solidarité sometimes, SUD union. Does it I wonder if I wondered if SUD had a different position than other unions. It
Yeah.
usually has a better position. And
Yeah.
I also wondered about those left groups. Are any of them proposing things that you think are useful in clarifying the situation?
Yeah, Sud had, they had some problem inside because not a part of their members are how to say it, they distrust everything. They distrust the state, they distrust the boss, they distrust science, they distrust doctors, they distrust. And if Macron say milk is white, maybe it's not true. Maybe milk is not the good white. So they had some trouble to get a position to organize this kind of campaign we talked about, because some of their members and maybe in their office are hesitating on not only on the mandatory vaccination, but even on vaccination. And for instance, a part of the Greens are very ambivalent on this question. And the other, for instance, MPA or Lutouvrière, I don't know. Their influence is quite limited, and their position is not so bad. But they are not able, for different kind of reason, to put a proposition on the table and to say, let's organize something together on these subjects, even looking on what the social movement produced or experiment, like I told you in the hospitals last year. This should be on the table for the left, for the revolutionary left, or whatever we call it. But it's not, it's a general consideration. And
well, I thank you for taking the time to try to explain this situation to an American audience here. Yeah, I wish you good luck with Syllepse, of course, and with your role in these things. Can you tell me, is Syllepse going to try to publish? Usually you publish things, you have your journal that you publish things every couple of months.
It's very strange. No, it's very funny. I don't think it's funny, but it's curious, because we have decided last year, when at the first stage of the epidemic, when we were in curfew and obliged to stay at home, we published a book a weekly book for 8 weeks or 9 weeks, with a lot of discussion, information at the world level, and sort of resistance against the political line of the. And during the last period, we have discussed to publish this kind of small book, a small pamphlet on vaccination, health politics, and so on. And maybe it's my responsibility, but we didn't succeed to. It was not a question we didn't agree. We agree, but
well, unfortunately, there'll still be plenty of time to need such a pamphlet. So maybe that will happen. I wanted to spell for American listeners here, watchers, Syllepse, Syllepse, Syllepse. And you can find it, you should be able to find that publishing house, French publishing house, many great titles and many useful, and you also publish a journal on developments in the developing countries. I've forgotten the name, something Sud.
Alternative Sud.
Right, Alternative de Sud. So once again, thank you so much. And
Thank you. I'm sorry for my.
There's nothing to be sorry for. You're quite clear, and we appreciate you making the time. And great to see you.